new details emerge in the Gene Hackman gas station pie scandal, and that his Asian wife was apparently restricting the 95-year-old from eating sweets, forcing him to make gas station runs for the lowest end of pies, calling into question if aging alone is really that bad. King Charles shows off the usage of his sausage fingers, with poor peasants receiving dates and thanking the king for not touching their food. The government officials looking to change the legal classification and declare that the planet actually likes carbon, which would be a relief to cows that have been holding in their farts. Next, with the Epstein client list being released, will we find out what kind of cigars Bill Clinton likes shoving into children? Couples say they were forced to sit next to a dead body on a Qatar Airways flight. Many saying they didn't notice because the plane smelled anyways.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lately hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. We are here for a late Sunday night edition, trying to take over the internet. Everyone else, they take off Sunday nights. They went to church this morning. They ate too much of a picnic meal with the rest of their family. They go to sleep. No one's clocking those miles, and that's why we're going to take over the internet. And I'm already ready for a bigger microphone because the amount of things that I get correct, it's really remarkable. It's really remarkable that someone as stupid as me, working out of a dungeon next to a woodshaw sop that also likes to play rave music, and a missing bathroom key. Just to add to the dynamics of the faulty studio, I did lose the bathroom key, but it's okay because there's no one here on Sunday, so you can just kind of go in the hallway. We'll figure that one out. But let's start with this one because I got some complaints. We're going to get into the good, the bad, and the Trumpy. And one thing that I'm noticing with this new Trump administration is, people, they like to give me shit. They like to pretend like I'm not doing my research if I don't know all the specifics on things that are going on. And I feel like we're getting a lot of clickbait. There was a lot of chatter last week that we were going to get the Epstein list. The internet was getting all excited. We're finally going to find out what happened. They're going to tell us about this safe that had been taken out of his house. They're going to tell us why all the security footage went off in that thing, and then they put the corpse of another guy and claimed that it was Epstein so that Epstein could go back to Israel and take the little tunnel back past the ice wall so that he could hang out with the other demonic creatures that like to keep blackmailing all of our leaders. I don't know the way all the systems work, but let's go for the real conspiracy that he never even died in that cell. Were you at that funeral? Do you guys know that Ghislaine Maxwell's actually in a prison cell right now? Do you know that she's in a prison cell and it's not just Goodfellas style where she's in a back room chopping up onions and eating delicious meatballs? You don't know any of this information. We don't have cameras inside of these jail cells. I bet Puff Daddy's throwing a party with Sam Bankman-Fried right now and banging him out. I bet these guys are having the best prison parties that you've ever seen in your entire life. You think Epstein's even dead? You think they really paraded his broken neck out of there? Or maybe that would be too much liability to have that guy alive in another area. But the whole internet was all excited. We're finally getting the Epstein information. And last week I called bullshit because off the bat I said, if you want the real Epstein information, it's the storyline of what the hell happened to this safe. The flight logs and the client list does not strike me like the most interesting information. Is the client list specifically a client list of who was purchasing kids, where they made their kid purchases, what time they made, what they were doing with the kids? Were they keeping those kind of records? No, the client list was just who partied with them. And that becomes a bit of a mix-up of who was actually partying and who was getting in on the creepy children stuff. And I'm just saying, if you want to have a real conversation about the whole Epstein shindig, there's layers to what should be taken apart. I guess the first layer is, why did he get a sweetheart deal until Mike Cernovich, I think it was, won the Freedom of Information Act? And then everyone's like, whoa, what happened here? And who were all those people that just gave him that sweetheart deal? Why aren't every single one of those people paraded in front of Congress to go, why was it that this guy was just given a sweetheart deal? Why was it that storyline that someone got a call and said, hey, that's an intelligent asset, you leave that person alone? And then how is it that the FBI, once this guy got in trouble, went into his house, collected a safe, and then just said, oh, we lost the safe? And then some of the other storylines are coming out is that apparently Comey's daughter was the one working on it, and that the New York City office has thousands of pages of files that they didn't turn over. And then, of course, every single time you get these, we absolutely have to have transparency, and we will get you all the information, but we can't release it immediately. I mean, we need a couple days to redact and clean up what's there. We can't just hand it to you. I mean, once we turn all the pages white from black, we pull a reverse Michael Jackson, then you guys can see these things. But listen, full transparency, whatever's in that file, 40 years later, we'll show it to you immediately. But first, we got to clean the thing up before you can see it. Fully transparent. And then Pam Bondi, I mean, talk about a fucking bozo. Excuse my language. I try not to curse this early in the show. I'm usually more articulate and don't have to lean on the F-bombs. But talk about a bozo on the news going, we're putting out everything that was Donald Trump's request, and you guys are going to be horrified. What did you look at that you thought we were going to be horrified by if you were just putting out the exact same information that we had all already seen and already had, which is a couple flight logs? What exactly were we going to be horrified for? Did you not anticipate that 24 hours later you were supposed to put out the information and there was going to be nothing interesting for us to be horrified about? And that's why I say that we're dealing with the clickbait presidency. You get little musings of there's going to be interesting information coming your way, and there isn't. I knew. Listen, who knows? Maybe the internet's going to be so upset this time around. I mean, everyone knows that Epstein didn't kill himself, and they didn't seem to have any reason to come out and offer us a better explanation. I mean, the entire world knows that Epstein didn't kill himself, and they've done nothing to clean up that information in any capacity. Nobody likes reporting on the safe storyline. It's out there. They took a safe and said, oh, wow, we lost a safe. And then you get them talking about that they're going to release the client list and you guys are going to love it. And then all of 2 days later, we get nothing. All right. Next thing that I want to get into, and I see the comment sections. I see the comment sections are going wild. We'll get into it. We'll take your comments. I'm not rushing anywhere. It's Sunday night. Where do I have to go? I mean, sure, there's other tasks because anyways, let's stay focused here. We're going to get into the whole Zelenskyy shindig. And talking of clickbait presidency, and I know once I say this, you guys might be like, oh, you're just not doing your research. And if you guys have seen this reported on, please shoot me an email, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. Tell me what homework I'm not doing when I'm reading and watching the news every single day for hours a day. Tell me what I'm missing here. But suddenly they sit down and they're going to do an agreement with Zelenskyy, and I knew that no agreement was going to be made. I knew it wasn't going to happen. I wish I had gotten on the to podcast before it just to let everyone know that it wasn't going to happen, because I saw Zelenskyy talking about it was going to be a preliminary agreement. And listen, I've worked enough sales in my lifetime to know that when someone wants to think it's a final agreement, you get the counterparty going, no, it's an initial conversation. He's already floating out there, hey, I have to speak to my wife energy. I got to talk to my business partner. Zelenskyy was coming in there looking to do a push-off. He did not want to sign any agreements, and I knew that because of the things that he was saying. And then, of course, Donald Trump, being the sales guy he is, they just went for the assumptive close and said, all the things that you're looking for by way of security agreements, we'll discuss that after you sign this agreement. And you've already agreed to sign this agreement, so you're being disrespectful if you say anything otherwise. And everyone's holding to that storyline that Zelenskyy had agreed to it beforehand. And listen, he's a Jew weasel, so maybe he did, and he never planned on actually signing the thing. But I knew showing up, he was not ready for that meeting, and Donald Trump was a genius for putting it on television so that you could all see how weaselly he was. And I don't think anyone's taking his side anymore. I think after that meeting, I don't think anyone's on Zelensky's side. I think the American people are like, let's go fight Ukraine ourselves. And so that was brilliant of Donald Trump. But back to the clickbait presidency that I'm yelling about. What exactly is the mineral deal? The mineral deal that he was showing up to sign for. Do any of us actually know what it was? To my best estimate, it was actually far fairer than I had initially anticipated. I was yelling that I thought that it was mean, that Donald Trump was a big old meanie pants, that after us giving free money to this country and convincing them that they should go fight a war because of a failed foreign policy of, hey, let's throw Ukrainian deaths to try and bleed Russia dry so that we can be stronger and we can hold lines and borders and show our strength in the world. And it was completely flawed and stupid, and we couldn't let it look any weaker. And as people were saying at the beginning of this, I thought the people that were saying that it was going to be the end of NATO, that was too extreme, and that did not sound to me like it was accurate, because people don't like to put up losses like that. If anything, they'll just pretend to restructure NATO. We'll fund NATO a little bit less. And I thought those were some of the boldest claims. It was for people like Colonel McGregor was saying that. Douglas McGregor was saying that. Scott Ritter was saying that, I think. There were a couple of those voices that were going, believe me, this is going to be the end of NATO. I was like, I don't know. That seems a little bit much. That now it's starting to look like that the Ukraine war might have been such a, if you're a strong America type character, was one of the biggest, worst foreign policy blunders that maybe we've ever done. But anyways, and that's if you're into the whole NATO thing. I'm not into that. I thought that, the whole thing is stupid. But I'm just saying, if you had those interests of showcasing a stronger America, we can bully everyone all the time, and we're going to have a stronger alliance with Europe, and NATO's going to be stronger, and China and Russia are going to fear us forever. I mean, have we showcased that we are incapable of policing the world and working together in that capacity? All right. Anyways, we're getting lost in our thoughts here. I was trying to say what the actual agreement was. At first, I thought it was a bad idea, because I think it's good to create favorable partnerships with people. And I felt like we had some responsibility for what happened in Ukraine. And so we shouldn't be ramming it up their ass after the war and saying, hey, from now on, not only are you giving up good territories to Russia, but 50% of all these minerals, they're going to have to come our way. And now, to the best of my understanding, it was actually a far more favorable deal than that, where it seems like the mineral deal was essentially we would have an exclusive right to buy the minerals, that the minerals are important to the United States of America, and so we just wanted to secure the access, and that the money that was going to be used to purchase these minerals from Ukraine, that money would then go into a fund owned 50% by America that would then be reinvested into the country. So, and that's just, listen, like I said, it's a clickbait presidency. I've yet to see all the details on it, but to my best estimate, it seems like it was a much better deal than what I was giving Donald Trump a hard time for. And not that Donald Trump listens to, Donald Trump's not one of the 6,000 people that listened to this podcast and was like, oh my God, I better placate that Robbie the Fire guy. So it's not like my analysis was that important. But once I get a bigger, longer, and thicker microphone, and then we go daily so that everyone sees just the track record of how good and how right I am on these things, Donald Trump might be taking these phone calls. All right, let's take some comments, and then we will recap the entire Zelenskyy meeting, which was some of the best political television I've watched in a long time. I mean, from the second that I saw that first clip of when it went off the rails and JD Vance stepped in there very sharply, you realize, oh, this is not the guy you want to be across a meeting table from, because he actually does his homework. He's prepared, sharp, and articulate. We're so used to watching absolute buffoons and dummies in government that JD Vance is an interesting character because he's not one of those people. And for how smart he is, like Ted Cruz strikes me as a smart guy, but he's a bit of a yelly buffoon. JD Vance, I mean, he's a pudgy-faced dyke, but he's very calm and very intelligent. All right, let's take a couple comments. Episode is brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, only place in the entire world. You can get an entire kilo of Kratom for just $60. And if you love independent content like this, going live on Sunday nights, telling you about the Epstein safe, giving you the coverage that no one else will give you, it's only possible thanks to the support of YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. And if you are into Kratom, you won't find better prices anywhere. All right, let's take some comments, and then we will give the entire recap of what went down at that fascinating meeting between Zelenskyy and Trump. Starting with Spud Dougherty. I can't figure out which platform to comment on to have Robbie see my dumb comment on. X is excellent. I see it right here. Real talk. Love you, stuff mate. Love you, stuff mate. Love you. You're not trying to stuff me, are you? I like stuffing. I don't like being stuffed. But if you're saying you like what I'm doing, then thank you, Mr. Real Talk or Mrs. Real Talk. JR. Scream into the void, please now. That's what I'm all about. And, the screams are louder because they're not being drowned out on Sundays by the mishigas, there's a good Yiddish word, of the saw guy. And who knows, maybe God answered my prayers and he died over the weekend. And I won't have to contend with him on Monday. Based, hi, Robbie. I listened to Dark Side of the Moon for the first time in years today, and I'm having an existential crisis. What should I do? Why would Dark Side of the Moon bring you an existential crisis? Because you forgot how incredible it was? And or you stopped smoking weed and you realized I'd like to smoke weed while I'm listening to this? Or you realized how many things in your past you truly appreciate that have just fallen off, and now you're debating whether or not to call some of those friends and loved ones that you haven't spoken to? Or do you no longer like Pink Floyd because you're in such a deep and dark depression that even things that you loved in the past, you're trying to experience and connect with and you can't? Based, I'd love to help you with this existential crisis, but I need some more information about what is plaguing you. Discordian Ape, love you, Robbie. No homo. It's okay if you are a homo. You can be all homo. Catchin 45, wait, Robbie, where are you? Blink rapidly if you're safe. Yo, Kratom himself, you misunderstood when they said keep the kids safe. All right, let's going to jump ahead in the comments here, and then let's get into my recap. John Edward, hey, Base, there's no dark side of the moon, really. Matter of fact, it's all dark. All right, one more comment. Mr. Sir, X is the best because I can lock my phone and still listen live while I'm at work. That's right. Broadcast it to the masses. Let everyone in the office know what's up. All right, and, oh, actually, I lied to you, nice people. I apologize for lying to you, nice people, but we got some other quick stories. We got a couple quick stories, and then we'll do the Russia, Ukraine, Zelenskyy recap. Let's start with this one. This is a fun one. I've said it before. I absolutely love petty Trump. I love when he's doing the stupid, silly things, because that's the stuff that makes a difference in our lives, when he's doing things like bringing us back the straws. And so here's a fun little one. Trump says he plans to add White House ballroom and pave part of the Rose Garden. We're halfway to just a giant Trump sign outside of the White House. I would love it if he built a ballroom that was bigger than the entire White House, and he called it Mar-a-Lago 2, and it was on the back side. Like on the front side, you saw the White House, and then on the back side, like getting divorced and, marrying a hotter, younger wife, which Trump's all about, he built the biggest, greatest ballroom. Nobody's ever seen a ballroom like this ever. And if he got Mexico to pay for it. If he got Mexico to pay for that, the wall, maybe he got the Canadians to chip in. It was with all the money he got back from Ukraine. Maybe Donald Trump brings us peace on earth and then gets to spend the rest of his presidency in the ballroom. Here were some other fun ones. And once again, Clickbait Presidency. Donald Trump, the Department of Justice, has just returned the boxes that deranged Jack Smith made such a big deal about. They're being brought down to Florida and will someday be part of the Trump Presidential Library. Justice finally won out. I did absolutely nothing wrong. This was merely an attack on political opponent that obviously did not work well. Justice in our country will now be restored. And here's why this is clickbait. What the fuck was in those boxes? How many years of our lives do we have to hear about boxes that he shouldn't have taken, that he ended up taking, and now he gets to have the boxes back and not have any idea what's actually inside of them? That's what they should do tomorrow after they release the Epstein files, is go, hey, remember the whole thing about the dangerous secrets that Donald Trump took with him, even though he's got the power to declassify things? And if you have the power to declassify things, so then taking it with you, it seems to me that would indicate, hey, this isn't supposed to be classified anymore because I get to make that decision. I'm taking it with me. So there, it's no longer classified. That makes sense to me. I don't know why you would need any more paperwork than that. I understand that the rest of us are a bunch of suckers and we got to fill out paperwork. But if you're the actual boss of the whole operation, he's got to sit down and fill out paperwork. I took it with me. It's declassified. And so now, after they tried to ban him from running for presidency, while he did the exact same thing that Joe Biden did for taking files, the autistic librarians and the presidential record keeping couldn't not have these files. So after, there was the whole Russia collusion thing, and then there was the January 6th thing and domestic terrorism and how he tried not to give over. He's going to be a dictator forever because he wasn't willing to give up the presidency. And then there was, he's reckless, and he took the files and them showing up with I think it was the FBI storming Mar-a-Lago, pulling the files out. Now Donald Trump is being returned those files from that court case. And we are talking about this still without knowing what's in them. At any point in time, can we have the actual information instead of just having conversations circling the clickbait headlines of what it is? Can we just all know what was inside of them and what Jack Smith made a whole big deal about instead of us all just guessing all the time? I hope if this actually is in the presidential library that they make it the Donald Trump bathroom reading material wing, and maybe they even put like toilets, and maybe they just make it a bathroom. Maybe they make it the nicest, the greatest bathroom anyone's ever taken a shit in ever. Maybe it could be the greatest, because that's why anyone goes to the public library. I mean, if you want to have a public library that people are going to actually use, especially as, you know, there's plenty of porn on the internet. You don't have to jerk off in the library. You got to be so homeless to be jerking off in the library. Barely anyone reads books. And if you're reading books, you're probably listening to the audiobooks. We don't need libraries anymore. What we need is great public bathrooms. And so, if anything, I feel like the Donald Trump Presidential Library should just be the greatest bathrooms anyone's ever seen. Just stalls, but nice stalls that are closed off, clean. We're keeping the homeless out. We're kicking them out with the Mexicans. And then the only reading material that's available should be the Jack Smith files. And you should have to check on your phone so that when you sit there and you take a shit at the Donald Trump Presidential Library that's not a library, it's actually just a giant public bathroom, you can sit there and read and go, wait, why was he in trouble for taking this? There's no nuclear secrets in this. This is a bunch of nonsense. Good line by Dublicity, Texas. I see you in the chat there. Rob wants bathhouses. Super gay. Fair enough. All right. And then let's get into the Russia-Ukraine thing. So this is what I was talking about of still not knowing what the actual details of the deal was. The one that they said that Zelenskyy was ready to come in and sign, and then he did them dirty, tried to get in front of the American cameras and back out of the deal. But under the final deal, Ukraine will pay half of all revenue from developing these resources to an investment fund jointly owned with the U.S. The agreement says contributions will be invested to promote the safety, security, and prosperity of Ukraine. The details will be worked out between the economic ministries, and the Ukraine's parliament will have to ratify it. It almost sounds like we're being a good dad here. We're like, instead of giving you all this money for the security, what we'll do is we'll buy your minerals and then force you to reinvest that money, which in Ukraine probably means it will just get stolen. But at least that's better than us just spending more money over there. But that is the beginning and end of what I was able to find on what was actually in this agreement. All right, let's take a look at the actual meeting. I'm not going to play any of the clips. I'm just going to give my recap because I feel like at this point you guys all probably watched it. It went off the rails later on when JD Vance stepped in. If I had to say it, it basically had the energy of, you know, getting called into the principal's office, having to sit down with mom and dad. They finally had enough of your shit. And JD Vance was definitely playing mom in this one. JD Vance is definitely. Do you have any idea how hard your dad works? That you would come in here, you've been spending our money on what? And you've been going out on school nights. We're paying for your school, but we're paying for your private college, and you're just been out partying. And he was definitely there playing the mom role of how dare you. And Donald Trump was this close to going, listen, young man, in 5 minutes, you're going to end up having to fight me and the Russians. Is that what you want? Is that you want to fight both me and Russia? I'll do it. I'll join Russia in the war, and I'll fight. You want that? And Zelenskyy is really just chief idiot. I mean, he came in with nothing. He had a couple comedian tricks, but Donald Trump's too good. You try and pull comedian tricks on Donald Trump in front of television cameras, it's not going to work. So he tried pulling that move at one point where he goes, can I talk? Can I talk? And they're like, sure. Floor is yours. And then he tried to pull that little move of, hey, you don't have to be loud with me. And Donald Trump, he wasn't loud. That wasn't, you want to see, we'll show you loud. I can be the loudest anyone's ever been. And so he tried, he had a couple tricks up his sleeve. And I think the problem here is Zelenskyy almost has childhood star energy. Where, firstly, he teamed up with the deep state, and they probably did him a little bit dirty, but he also probably has plenty of cash somewhere. Listen, Zelenskyy, whatever beach you have your cash just buried in the sand at, you might as well just go and let someone else, get rammed up the ass from Russia and America and just call it a war. This thing is over. You're not doing anyone any favors. You've got a stockpile of cash somewhere, and you might as well just go take it while you're still alive. Because I don't, and then of course his next move was to, after both mom and dad didn't take his side, he goes over to Europe to try and hang out with the less responsible uncle and see if he can talk them into supporting him so that maybe they'll go. But you know what it is? It's almost like in Casino when Sharon Stone runs out her good favor, and so she starts sucking off Joe Pesci, and then Joe Pesci realized, why did I get involved with this bitch? I can't do the impression right now. All right, but anyways, I think Zelensky's kind of got childhood star energy. That firstly, he partnered with the deep state. The deep state said, we're going to support you. You're going to win this war. You have to fight this war. You can't get out of this thing. And we're in this together. You're going to end up in NATO. We're going to send all this money to your country. You can pocket as much of it as you want. You can send some back to Papa Joe Biden. We're going to blow up that pipeline. We're going to make sure that in the future, Russia's got to send all of its oil through your country. We're all going to do well over here. And Putin's going to be crying for dear life that we accept him back into the fold and let him sell his natural gas to the rest of Europe. And then he shows up for years, all the propaganda's talking about how we have to support Ukraine. Putin's going to go take up all of Russia. Ukraine's on the front lines defending the world order. Otherwise, we're going to have nasty dictators just doing land grabs. And then he shows up, and you've got the biggest celebrities paid for by the CIA taking trips over there. You've got Ben Stiller. You've got the guy from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I'm not good with names. They're all going over there. Photo opportunities. You got this guy who is a okay comedian in a third world country, all of a sudden mixing it up with the Hollywood elite, showing up to the Oscars, and everyone's applauding him. And now it's just one election later, and he's just got that childhood star energy where he's like, where was all that free money I was supposed to get? Where was all that endless support, that love? You guys showed me, so why don't you guys like me anymore? I'm the same cute 5'2" Jew. What happened? I can still smirk for the cameras. I can still do all those things. And so he comes in and he tries pulling some tricks. And firstly, he did have a problem. I'm not the only one to say this, that English is not his first language. And when you talk in that kind of short Russian, it's like Khabib. You know, Khabib was a good trash talker because it's just the short sentences. And so things do sound a little bit more hostile when you've just got the broken Russian English. And so that didn't help his case. But then also everything he was doing didn't help his case. So he comes in and he's saying Putin's very evil. He's killing our kids. He's saying Putin, no be trusted. No be trusted. You can't trust Putin. No deal with Putin. And then he also says, and this was probably his biggest blunder, is that, listen, I'm actually doing you guys a favor because if you don't send me the support, Putin's going to come over and he's going to wage war with you guys. And that's when Donald Trump really had. He's like, there's an ocean between us. We do not need your fucking help. You're not doing us any favors. Shut up. And that's when Donald Trump really stepped in. And so, you know, listen, Zelenskyy, he played the wrong cards. He's showing up. Donald Trump was trying to pressure him into signing this mineral deal, which, as far as I understand it, actually sounds fair and reasonable. It did not seem like it was an exploitive deal. I do think the claim of, our interests will be aligned is nonsense, because it sounds like the Taiwan semiconductor thing, where if you don't actually have the resources to wage the war and defend it, then why would you want to have critical or infrastructure that can just be snagged by the enemy? That doesn't sound like a good strategy. But hey, listen, they're claiming you don't need the security guarantee because we're going to have American boots on the ground, and the American boots are going to be the people who are working these mineral things, and we're not just going to abandon them, which, if anything, you're going to end up with like a gerrymandering situation where Russia just takes all of Ukraine and then leaves our little areas with our workers out of it. But anyways, Zelenskyy comes in there, and you've got J.D. Vance, you've got Donald Trump in front of the television cameras, assumptively closing him for this deal, which they're claiming he had agreed to beforehand, which could be true, but based on the public appearances of him saying he was showing up for discussion, doesn't seem that way. And he's Hail Marying for some reason. He wants to continue this war, which makes no sense. The war's over. And at this point, you probably are stuck having to trust Putin. I don't know the specifics. I got to look into all these failed previous deals with Putin that he's saying that we can't trust Putin even if he changes it. Like, at this point, it's over. We don't want to back you anymore. America does not want to spend endless money to just see Ukrainians die for absolutely no reason. Nobody wants to escalate towards World War III with Russia. It seems to me like you don't have a choice but to try and trust Putin. And then if he violates an agreement, seeing if the next president is a little bit more inclined to fight with Putin over it. And how do you fight with Putin without ending up in World War III unless you continue to do this thing where just Ukrainians die because we send them minimal resources to try and somewhat bleed Russia while the Ukrainians just die? You're in a losing position here. And for years, we were hearing Ukraine was winning the war. They're winning the war. They're winning the war. No one's expressed anything that could possibly be a pathway to victory. Seems like your best option is what's on the table right now of, hey, we'll end the thing and we'll partner with you on the economics because we need some of your minerals, so you'll be a strategic asset for us, and that's about as good of a security guarantee as you're going to get. And then he shows up to go, no, Putin's the most evil thing in the entire world. He's killing our kids. He's bombing our hospitals, and he can't be trusted. And where does that go, and what does that do? And so Zelenskyy showing up as chief idiot, you know, he thought he still had all that aura of being a childhood star. And just to showcase how over this entire thing is, you even had Lindsey Graham, I'm sure you guys saw this on the news, saying, we are done with this guy. I can't believe he came in here. Lindsey Graham loves every war. He's advocated for every war that there's ever been. And good luck with Europe. That's the other thing. So if Zelenskyy now came in here, he was this disrespectful to Donald Trump, and then all of Europe decides that they want to partner with Zelenskyy and escalate what goes on, I think we end up just teaming up with the Russians. And here's the thing. I think the deep state and the propaganda has failed so bad that after when everyone just saw what happened with Zelenskyy, I don't think anyone's still going, oh, Donald Trump's a Russian asset and he just wants to work with the Russians. I think that this was the worst thing Zelenskyy could have done, because I don't think anyone that watched that meeting has any feeling other than, fuck you, dude, you know, I'm an anti-war guy, and listen, I'm a stupid, dumb hippie, and I preach anti-warness all the time. But I remember when I was a kid after 9/11, when I went into someone's house, and on CNN, they were showing all the planes that were now going into Afghanistan to kick their ass, and I wasn't going to kick anyone's ass, but I just had that spirit of a young American having watched World War II movies of, fuck yeah, we're going to go fuck those people up that bombed the World Trade Center. And listen, I was a dumb kid. That was probably Osama bin Laden's entire game, was try and sucker us into a war and bleed us dry and crumble the empire, because we'll fight everywhere all the time and we'll spend trillions of dollars on wars for no reason instead of, American investment and all the problems that come with that. But when I think that this fueled that as well. Is no, you can't just endlessly have our money. You're not just entitled to American dollars. This was stupid from the beginning. You're losing and people are dying, and there's no reason for this to continue going. And I think after everyone watched that, other than the dumb liberals who want to go on television and lie and pretend otherwise, I think the entire country is now, hey, we got to break up with Ukraine. Now we just need somehow Netanyahu to come into the Oval Office and be as disrespectful and stupid so that maybe we could have, we could also just walk away from the Middle East as well. And I think, like I said, I think Europe's in for trouble, because I think if now they want to try and back Ukraine without us, good luck with that one. This was just a fun moment when, because listen, Donald Trump's trying to make some deals. He's trying to get things done, and he'll say the harshest thing that he needs to say at any given point in time, and then he'll walk it back. And on the same note, you can be really mean to Donald Trump. You can be real mean to Donald Trump, and then when it comes time to cut a deal, he will just let it slide. I mean, you got to kiss the ring a little bit, but for the most part, I'll let it slide, because he's a nasty son of a bitch, and he's willing to make cut deals and move on. He doesn't care. And so this was fun, where they asked him, didn't you just call Ukrainian president a dictator just last week? And Trump just responded, did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question. All right. And then this was from CNBC. Trump says Zelenskyy is not ready for peace after the Oval Office fight. Basically, he sent Zelenskyy home and said, all right, you can have a timeout, and if you want to come back begging for this deal, maybe we'll work with you. And then just speaking to how much support Zelenskyy lost in that meeting, Speaker Johnson says Zelenskyy may have to resign after fiery Oval Office meeting. And if you remember, Johnson, before he became Speaker of the House, was talking a big game about getting rid of, McCarthy, and how we got to reduce spending and pretending like he was a real Republican. And then he immediately turned around and just signed all the deals to send all of the money to the Ukraine. And even Johnson and Lindsey Graham are turning around and going, we got to get out of our Ukraine position. We are done with this. All right, and there you go. That was the full recap of everything that I think has happened in the Zelenskyy Donald Trump saga. And my guess is he's going to go flirt with Europe a little bit and see if they'll back him. And that'll either just be the end of NATO, as it seems like all those countries really like spending our money. It seems like the second that they don't have our money, they're backing these things. They don't really have the resources to get it done. But I don't think America's backing Ukraine anymore after what we just saw. And without us backing it, I think we can fast forward the destruction of that country in terms of cutting them off from the support that has kept them in a war that they weren't winning anyways for absolutely no reason. All right, let's take some comments here. And by the way, I would respect this if Zelenskyy sat down and said, "Hey guys, I want to end the war. I want peace. We can't win this. We're not fighting anymore. I just want to say that America, not you, Donald Trump, you're wonderful, but your predecessors, we weren't going to fight this. And here was the meeting I had with Boris Johnson. And here's what was said to me. And I feel that the mineral deal is unfair. And I understand that you can't even give me a security guarantee because then we're back at the same position with the NATO and you guys wasting endless money here. I just need something a little bit better for the people of Ukraine so that we can have prosperity in the future." I would at least get what he was saying. But he showed up to the White House to undermine the peace talks and say, hey, we have to fight Putin to the death. And that's easy to say when you're looking for our money to do it, and it makes no sense. And the only way that marches towards victory is if it somehow escalates towards World War III, which strikes me as an unacceptable risk. BillTube, Zelenskyy should stop while he's ahead or while he has one. Fair point. Catching 45. Deal was a bad idea. Would have put U.S. people and interests in range of Russia. You're saying that has the same problem as kind of what I was saying with Taiwan, and that if we were to do mineral deals with U.S. strategic assets in Ukraine, then Ukraine-Russia problems would also become a red line issue for the U.S., and why would we put us in a situation where we could have those kind of hostilities? It's like putting two trained fighting pit bulls together. There's just a possibility for escalation, so why would you do it? Is that what you're saying, Catching 45? I'm curious. All right, Junior. When do world leaders learn that if the U.S. offers you a deal, you probably end up with a knife in your ass down the line? They should learn it, but you know, it's we're the crazy bitch that sucks a good dick. Mr. Sir, Friday's argument kind of makes me want to read Art of the Deal to understand the way he negotiates. It's not a bad idea. I should read that book. I have it in my house, but I haven't read it. Junior, import all the hot Ukrainian women chicks and end the war. That's the best plan I've heard yet. Someone put that right on Donald Trump's desk because I think I'm not going to have a better take than that. Well said, Mr. Junior. Student borrowers are hit by steep declines in credit scores. So talk about, not wanting to trust the United States government when they offer you a sweetheart deal. And this is the end of the Ukraine talk. Thank you to our other sponsor, Sheath.com. Use promo code RYM for 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. We are coming up on Porch Tour season at some point. I will take all the Adderall. I will get all the paperwork done. I will get those ticket links up, and we will porch our ass off. And let me tell you, if you're out on Porch Tour, you're sitting down in your comfortable lawn chair, bringing the beers that you brought, because we're all about savings over here. I'm not just Jewy for me. I'm Jewy for you as well. And I try and make Porch Tour as enjoyable of an experience as it can possibly be. You can pack your sandwiches. You can bring your drugs. You can bring your kratom. You can bring your coolers of beers. But sometimes summer, it gets hot. And let me tell you, you're going to want your Sheath underwear. That's what you're going to want when you're out on Porch Tour. Sheath Underwear is the official sponsor of the Run Your Mouth podcast and the official summer clothing of Porch Tour. And I encourage you, if you've got the sack for it, just to show up in your sheaths. Don't even wear your pants. Whoever's hosting it will be into that. But you at least have like an impressive bulge so that everyone can be impressed. Don't have a bulge where we all have to feel bad for you and be like, why is this fat guy not wearing pants? But if you're a good-looking, younger, handsome male that could double as a male stripper with a body that we would all be impressed by and feel more motivated to go to the gym, and the one lady that sometimes shows up to Porch Tours, the same lady in every city, who will shove dollars into the sheath band, which, like I said, stays up so you don't have wedgies. You don't have a wedgie problem. The official Porch Tour summer wear of the young, handsome bodies that are not showing up to Porch Store. But we got more college kids showing up. I don't know what's going on in the world that more college kids are finding the programming, but I'm all for it. As much as I like these 50-year-olds and these 60-year-olds that show up and party with us on Porch Store, I see these 23 and 24-year-olds, and I'm like, that guy can be buying tickets for the next 40 years. That's career longevity than the heart attack city of the 60-year-olds. I like the 60-year-olds, but you all understand what I'm saying, that there's more growth and opportunity if you're capturing the youth. Anyways, sheath.com, promo code RYM, 20% off, the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. And in the comments, we've got Junior vouching for Sheath, saying that is in fact a quality product. Dublicity, Texas, I'm Jewy for you as well. Rob 2025. That's great. Student borrowers are hit by steep declines in credit scores. And this one's tragic. So, Biden, he tried to pretend, hey, I'll buy all of your votes. If you guys have student debt, I will get rid of that student debt for you. And that one's harsh, where you're not sure. This is what always happens with the government. You don't know what they're actually going to do. Can I return to work next week? Or are we still doing COVID lockdowns? Am I allowed to? How's this working? Or do I get an extension on my taxes? Do I need a real ID? And they just change things on you. And sometimes the things that they will change on you is that the student debt that you thought was forgiven is not forgiven. And then the onus is apparently on you to know that. And I've had this, there should be some sort of sometimes I get legitimate messages from companies. I've complained about this on the show. I've complained about a lot of things, but I've complained about this one on the show, is that you'll get an email from Geico that's not at geico.com. You'll get a letter that looks suspicious. You'll get a text message there should be some sort of the same way I need an ID, there should be some sort of a formal way that companies have to engage with you. And if they have not engaged with you in a way that cannot be easily duplicated by spammers, like 90% of the time that a company reaches out to me, it is with a text message from an undisclosed thing with a suspicious link, that if that link were to steal all of my information, I told someone, they would go, why did you click that? I feel like there needs to be some sort of a certification or something from companies in the way that they give information to consumers that cannot be easily duplicated. And some of it's easy. Just, you should be able to have the same that's the website with no suspicious numbers or anything else. And there's a couple other ones. But otherwise, it's like you're just empowering more scams. And if you're not going to identify yourself to me, and I don't know that you're officially the company, you shouldn't just be able to send me a text message or call me if I don't answer my phone and then go, oh, I tried to get in touch. I once had that with Hertz also, that there was damage to a car that I had returned, and I guess they said they sent me a letter. Anyways, maybe they did. But back to this. Student borrowers are hit by steep declines in credit scores. So apparently there are people who thought that their loans had been forgiven. Turns out that their loans weren't forgiven. Nobody told them they were responsible to start making payments again. They missed the initial payments, and they're good to go ahead and make those payments. But then their credit score declined because they missed payments that they didn't know that they were responsible for. And there are even people that had mortgages on the table or other future plans that have now been ruined by their decreases in their credit scores. That's what happens when you rely on government for free money, is they turn around, they take it away, and now you're screwed. Here we go. Student borrowers are hit by steep decline in credit scores. These were the couple things I wanted to read. Let's read these two things that I underlined. The pandemic era relief on federal student loans ended in October. Starting the 90-day clock, people have to make payments before their credit scores take a hit. That time is up, and borrowers are feeling the pain. Shiloh Garcia was notified by her bank this month that her credit score had dropped to 620 from 720. She discovered she was more than 90 days delinquent on payments for her $16,000 in student loans, which she had thought were still suspended. Her mortgage broker estimated the lowered score would add $400 to the monthly payment for the new home she wanted to buy. Let's skip ahead to the other part that I underlined. Ben Kisser, a spokesperson for loan servicer Nelnet, acknowledged the concerns from some borrowers about communications, but he said in a written statement that like any credit card, auto loan, mortgage loan, or consumer loan, it is ultimately the borrower's responsibility to ensure their loan services has accurate contact information. And that's the bullshit I'm talking about. That's the bullshit I'm talking about. All right, couple other quick news topics. Here's a fun one. Gavin Newsom is starting a podcast. And we were all hoping for more unfiltered Gavin Newsom. Here's what happened. The news has lost so much credibility that random schmucks broadcasting next to, with no bathroom access, broadcasting next to people that are running rave music, saw class, something for the elderly, and all the people that started out of their garage in their basements and just had a microphone and started talking to the truth. Consumers got more used to seeing the truth in low budget places where people just have a microphone and a pair of headphones. They don't have the fancy studios or anything else, that now your actual mainstream media people, all of your celebrities, and even your politicians are going, wow, I look more truthful if I leave the credible place of these fancy studios and I go to the low budget space that teenagers that were just talking shit, that's the more truthful setting. And so even Gavin Newsom here is starting a podcast, because this is what happens when you're at the end of your career. This is what happens for celebrities. When it's all over, when you got a forest fire in your state because you hired a bunch of lesbians because of DEI hires, when you go into stores that everyone's robbing and you go, I didn't create policies that said that you can't arrest the people that are just robbing from this place. And then the last Hail Mary is, when it's all over, is, hey, well, I can at least start my podcast. And here's Gavin Newsom pitching his podcast.
We need to change the conversation.
Let me know if we got
and that's
audio.
why I'm launching a new podcast. And this is going to be anything but the ordinary politician podcast. I'm going to be talking to people directly that I disagree with, as well as people I look up to. But more important than anything else, I'll be talking directly with you, the listener. Real conversations. What's going on with the cost of eggs? What are the impacts, real impacts to you around tariffs? What power does an executive order really have? And what's really going on inside of Doge? Look, there's an onslaught of information that we take in. So let's take it to the sources without the typical political mumbo jumbo. In the first few weeks, we're going to be sitting down with some of the biggest leaders and architects in the MAGA movement. This is Gavin Newsom.
Sorry if that was a little bit loud. Someone just told me that. I lowered the levels, and at some point we'll have that all figured out, and then it will be standardized, and then I won't blow out your eardrums. All right, now here's just another quick short one, and it's just such a dick moment where, I mean, we all know the way RFK Jr. sounds. It's like you're starting a lawnmower that also has some cum in it. But here you have RFK Jr. It's in front of it's the first meeting. They get everyone together at the table. And, you know, RFK Jr. is just talking like RFK Jr. And some dickhead of a reporter asks him if he's sick, as if he doesn't know that he has a problem with his voice. Roll the tape, producer man.
There's a measles outbreak in Texas at the moment in which a child is reported to have died. Do you have concerns about that, and have you asked Secretary Kennedy to look into that?
Why don't we, Bobby, you want to speak on that?
We are following the measles epidemic every day. I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point, mainly in Gaines County, Texas. Mainly, we're told, in the Mennonite community. There are 2 people who have died, but we're watching it, and there are about 20 people hospitalized, mainly for quarantine. We're watching it. We put out a post on it yesterday, and we're going to continue to follow it. Incidentally, there have been 4 measles outbreaks this year in this country. Last year, there were 16. So it's not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year.
You sound a little under the weather yourself right now. Are you all right?
I have a permanently bad throat.
The coughing.
Mr. President, would you...
There you go. As if he didn't know. All right. And then last topic for today, as I've been talking about quite a bit, and this is probably the upside of Trump and what doesn't get enough coverage. But this was in the Wall Street Journal. BlackRock's woke era is over, and that's because we somehow dodged full-scale socialism, and that's why you've got the Washington Post is going back to basically saying, hey, we're not just going to write propaganda pieces. You've got these news networks firing some of their very well-paid anchors, and you've got BlackRock going, we got to get out of this whole selling ESG things because the Fed's just not going to give us free money as it looks like the full-scale socialism and not having to compete in the marketplace is on hold. And so we're going to go back to actually running a business because we're not going to be able to profit by just imprisoning everybody in structures where, as I've said it 1,000 times, the elites don't like to compete. All right, that is the end of our episode. Thank you for hanging out. Man, Sunday's electric. We got 640 people watching live. You see, this is what you got to do. You got to work when no one else wants to work, and you got to have the biggest microphone in the game. Dublicity, what an utter slime ball. You were not saying that about RFK Jr., you were saying that about Newsom. Janice Ban, who doesn't want their eardrums blown out by Newsom's voice? Or you're saying that no matter what, it's going to irritate you, so the fact that it was too loud doesn't necessarily make it any worse because you got to listen to Newsom anyways. Junior, vaccinate RFK. No, just eat more bear meat with him. That's what you want to do with RFK. Keegan Sorrell, if the mic's not bigger next time, I will be sad. I don't know if there is a bigger microphone, which someone said you got the same microphone as Tim Dillon. I don't. He's got the classic, I forget the name of his mic, but this one's a Rode. That one's a different company. Maybe just for the gag, I can look into who makes a larger microphone than this, but we gotta, or maybe I can hire a prop department to build this into a bigger microphone. Maybe I should stop talking about it out loud so I can actually do the gag. All right. Last 2 comments. Episode's over. People are complaining that I need an outro song, that I end it in an awkward way. So just consider it over now. You know what? For all the people that don't like that it just abruptly ends and they like to think that I had other things that I was going to say, there was nothing else being said. So I formally sign off and bid you fair. I don't know why 640 people are still listening. The show's over. I'm going to ramble a little bit and then just close it off when it closes off. But I'm just letting you know, if you're a person that likes a more concrete ending of the show being over, and then you get annoyed that it just cuts off at some point because I press end stream and it doesn't end immediately, so I just talk till it's over, I formally bid you good night, and may you take a splendid dump in the morning, and may the loved one that you haven't spoken to in a little bit reach back out, and may your taxes be paid by somebody else and your stocks go up. And if you want to help manifest those things, what you should do is buy merchandise from robbernsteinmerch.com and send this email to 4 friends of yours and hold hands in the park with homeless people. All right, 2 more comments. Alan Thickdick, Robbie, I can't wait till you get the bigger, longer, thicker microphones so the whole world can hear you running your mouth. Thank you, sir. Philly D will stop wiggling. I'll wiggle all I want. That's how I keep the calories off. Junior, yelling at the audience is your sign off. That's right. All right, show's over.